Martin, we spoke to you in July when you first joined the club. How have you found your first few months on Wearside?
Interesting, challenging and enjoyable. When you come to a new football club, you have to look, listen, learn, walk the boards, get to know the people. And it's been an enjoyable experience. It's been difficult. It's had its turbulent start. And yeah, from a football perspective, we're not maybe where we want to be. But from a personal perspective, I've found the first 3 months invaluable in the sense that you do have to get a real feel for people, a real feel for the identity of a club and where it sits before you can start to make decisions and recommendations as to how you move forward.
You jumped in the deep end, Sam Allardyce departing and David Moyes coming in. What was it that stood out for you with David Moyes?
Experience, character. David I think he's probably one of the top 4 most experienced managers in Premier League history in terms of number of games he's been involved in and managed. And fundamentally, I think that experience coupled with David's longer term approach to life. I think he's a builder. I think he's a guy who absolutely understands the need to win first and foremost, but in parallel understands that the job that he's come here to do and the job I have come here to do is to build and almost rebuild. And that's not wishing in any way to be disingenuous to anybody or anyone that's been before me. But I think it's probably apparent to everybody that we've got a journey to embark upon here. So when I first met David, we obviously had to discuss a little bit about the past, but together working as a partnership now is very much about we can't change the past, but we can certainly change the future, and we have to now look forward. So from both our perspectives, it's very much about rebuilding. We discuss at all times, let's do the basics right. And fundamentally, in terms of me as the CEO of the football club, I think that's the biggest message that I would like to get across to people that work here and indeed to our fans is that we want to get back to basics. We have a football club here that has to be very synonymous with its North East identity. The fans, I think, want that from their football club. And without being disparaging to anything that's maybe gone before, I think it's probably lost its identity. And it's maybe tried at some times to be a club that it's not. And therefore it's very much a case of let's just do the basics correct, let's build and take a more longer term approach.
You mentioned coming in and understanding the club before you made changes. What have been your first impressions?
Passion. That's probably the biggest single word that I could probably use to give you a short summation. An unbelievable fan base. People like me can be patronising sometimes and use that word, use the word loosely, but I actually genuinely mean it about this football club. I've been shown a great deal of warmth, and indeed it puts a bit of pressure on you because with that warmth comes people looking at you in hope that you'll be able to achieve to make their Saturdays a bit more enjoyable. But I'm good with that pressure because in the first few months I have felt that passion of that fan base and a desire to win. Even if you look at the away game there at the weekend, and throughout the second half, our fans were fantastic. It wasn't a great game to watch. We're cruising towards a defeat, unfortunately, but they were there with us and with the manager till the end. And I think if together we can just show that actually this is a rebuilding plan, and the fans stick with the club, as I'm sure they will, because they've had a lot of suffering in recent years. We can't take that away from fact. But I genuinely believe that there's a real desire, and if you have that desire, then we can achieve great things together.
What will be your main focus then, with all that in mind, in the next few months?
Winning. Fundamentally I have to do everything in my power to make sure that we strengthen that squad. And what I mean by strengthening that squad is that's my daily task every day with David, is to strengthen that team. He's obviously the football manager, he's obviously out there in the training pitch every day, he's got recruitment and everything else to deal with. But I need to ensure that's our overall objective, is to give him every possible opportunity to succeed. So when I talk about winning, I mean a winning mentality throughout the club. Because culturally, if we don't start to believe that we can win and that we believe that we can achieve, then if it's prevalent in other areas of the club, it diffuses to other aspects. So I think fundamentally the whole club needs to start believing that we can achieve and we can win. And when I go back to the fan base, you get a lift from a fan base that wants to help you win and achieve. So in the next few months ahead, it's really getting back to the basics. I really want the club to have that identity that I think it's lost a little bit. I want to get out to the fan base. I want to do a lot more with David, who's fully behind that in terms of we have a wonderful fan base, let's engage with it. Let's talk to them in the way that they will relate to. We're not one of the super clubs in the world. We're not the most commercially prominent football club in the world. So let's not go down that route. Let's create the revenue that we can, but let's get back to the basics and let's talk football and let's start focusing on winning.
What are your immediate priorities?
My immediate priorities, probably to make sure that in terms of the business side of the club, that we look at being a bit more lean, a bit more mean. And what I mean by that is efficiency. Maybe stop doing some of the things that have just evolved that maybe we don't necessarily have to do. And then really fundamentally, the overall financial aspect of the football club is what will help determine our success going forward. So I have a big task in my hands as to just how we might look at what we invest, where we invest it, maybe having to realign some of that spend. And that's probably my biggest task in the way forward. All fundamentally coming back to making sure that we give David everything that he can possibly have to achieve.